Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching in the world. My name is Sean Driver, and we're back with the next edition of the Who Are You series, Do We Hate You, where we end up looking at teams in League Two and figuring out the history, the details, who they are, and just what teams are all about. So, Grimsby Town, you're up on Saturday, so let's get into it. Welcome to the Red Horde. I don't know why, but it just feels like it's been a long time since I've done a video like this, probably because I've been in different places. But in any event, we're back. Big changes for the watch party anticipated. So if you are looking to stop by, looking forward to it, if you haven't been there, come, feel free. We've got an in-bed chat. You can end up meeting people from all over the world. We've got 17 countries that have been represented. It's been continuing to grow and a lot of fun, but I was asked to make changes. I've tried, and unless there's tech issues, hopefully those are implemented. I'm gonna jump right into it. Grimsby Town FC. Who are you? The Mariners. Location. Well, Greater Grimsby, which interestingly enough, I've learned a new word, conurbation, which is where you take merging of separate towns into one geographical area. And so Greater Grimsby made up of three other market towns. You've got Cleethorpes, where the stadium actually is. You've got Immingham and you've got Grimsby, and they've decided, hey, we're going to be independent, but we're going to be together. Population in Cleethorpes, where the stadium is, 33,996. In Greater Grimsby, 88,136. The stadium that Grimsby plays in, Blundell Park, opened in 1912, renovated in 1995. Capacity 9,002. 6,279 people showing up on average last season, which put Grimsby 12th, right smack dab in the middle of attendance last season. Distance away from the race course, 167 miles, 269 kilometers. So that's about a 3 hour and 5 minute journey for those that are headed over to the race course for this one from Grimsby. The turnover, one of the lower ones, potentially surprisingly, in the League Two at $4,450,000 from Company's House. So trying to do a lot with a little is Grimsby, and they've done that. A little bit of an interesting history perhaps with Grimsby. I don't know. Danish history involves a Viking king, Havelock, who was a sole heir to the Danish throne, who ended up spending some time in Grimsby, met Grim. Grim became a fisherman. Largest port in England at the time, seaport, was in Grimsby, and yeah, so interesting history there. As far as the kit goes, just to take a look back in time, I don't know, what is it about the Northeast? Is there something about the black and white horizontal stripes? Because you've got Newcastle United is the obvious one that comes to mind, but Grimsby for a long time has had that black and white horizontal stripes, similar to Newcastle, but with thicker lines. They've always kept sort of a blue kit, which makes sense. The Mariners, water, yeah, that makes sense. But then they've also had a red, and I don't know why the red, other than it's potentially in the crest. Their crest, three red fish. Tried to look up some badge history to find out if that was connected at all to the three market towns. Couldn't figure that out. It could just be, some people have talked about a connection to the three lions, and so they added three fish. Who knows? Could just be that the creator thought that three was better than two and four was too many. Who knows? But I don't have a problem with the kit. They've got decent kits, so I'll give it to them. As far as expectations for the season, bookies odds had them placed right in the middle of the pile at 12th, and that would make them a middle third club. Performance so far this year, well, they're sitting in 12th. 2 wins, 4 draws, 1 loss for 10 points. Just going back into their EFL Cup history, they were knocked out in the first round by Mansfield. Their EFL trophy, they've lost their 2 games against Barnsley and Man City's B team. They're not mathematically eliminated from the Pizza Cup, I guess, because of the way the point structure is, but they'll need a lot of help to be able to, they'll have to get 3 points and then hope for a lot of help in order to continue on the trophy. So they're basically looking at trying to focus on the league and whatever FA Cup magic they may be able to run with later on in the year. Looking back then at the league, 9 goals, which has them 13th in the league and squarely in the middle, but 6th against. That's tied for second best in the league, behind league leaders Gillingham and Barrow. So we've got a low-scoring team with good defense in Grimsby up against a high-scoring team that until recently, and perhaps some people would suggest the departure of Fozzie, a team that hasn't been able to keep the ball out in Wrexham until recent. So last 5 games, sort of the opposite of Doncaster. I'm going to suggest Doncaster had been playing well up until that last game. The last game against Doncaster, my personal opinion was both teams played horrible, but we were able to get an ugly win in that one. With Grimsby and their history as it sits right now, they've been fortunate when you look at the analytical stats as to where they're at with the number of points they've got. Just to go through things, they had a draw with Bradford away. Analytics say that was a fair result, but then they beat Gillingham 2-0 at home. The stats say that was a fortunate result, and it probably should have been a draw. They drew Walsall away. That was 1-1. The analytics say they were lucky there. Their expected goals per game was a whole lot higher for Walsall, and so lucky to be able to take away a point there. They drew Mansfield Town at home 1-1. That completely fortunate. They were expected. Mansfield Town was expected to be 2 goals higher on their expected goals in that game. Mansfield had 11 more shots and 21% more possession. So fortunate there. They beat Salford City at home 2-0, and Salford picked up a red card early. But even despite that, probably still lucky to get away with a win, because even with the red card, a draw was expected. So they've been lucky, according to the analytics. But I will say this, they have had a nasty schedule to start off with. They've played the top 3 teams in the league. So like we said, solid defensively. Their conceded per match is near the top of the league. They've got a really healthy shot conversion rate, which probably makes up for their statistics being average generally as a team. They're not getting a lot of chances, but they're pocketing a lot of chances. And so if that continues, statistically, you'd think they would normalize at some point in time over the season. But if they're able to continue with that conversion rate, they're going to be a dangerous team that may not get a lot of chances, but they seem to pop them when they get them. So, stats for the season, just as far as how they play, they're a little bit more direct than us. Their direct speed, passes per sequence are nearly identical to us. So I guess the big difference is when they decide to go, there's slightly less passes, but they're up there in the same amount of speed. So last game against Wrexham, I'm going to deal with it exactly as the season 2, episode 1 of the documentary handled it. It happened. They won. That's that. Connections to Wrexham, not really much to go with. Ollie Palmer had 13 games with him on loan back in 2015, where he potted 6 goals in 13 games. Last season, their performance had them in 11th place with 16 wins, 13 draws, 17 losses for 61 points, so just below the 500 mark. They lost 9 of 13 in the middle of the season, and that was sort of their downfall as far as them being able to sneak into a playoff and promotion space. Their gaffer, Paul Hurst, he has been around a while for them. He's from Sheffield. He played 438 games as a defender for Rotherham United. Then he joined Grimsby Town after that and coached them in 2016 for promotion out of the National League up into League 2. He was then departed, and he came back in 2020 to try to save them from being relegated back into the National League, and wasn't successful in that instance. There's not a lot of blame put on him for that, and he hung around and got their promotion in 2022 when they advanced through the National League playoffs somehow. Team roster, look, this one's predictable. 6 players who have over 600 minutes on the team. Just by comparison, Wrexham has 2. That's Lee and Tozer. They're without significant injuries, no suspensions that I'm aware of at the moment. So we largely know what we're going to get, potentially with just a couple of changes in 1 or 2 positions where they've sort of been rotating through people. Up front, it's going to be clear. And I should say, from what I understand, they play a 4-1-4-1. And so their midfielders, forwards have been playing sort of in multiple roles, as some of their midfielders end up playing as left back, right backs, and some of their forwards end up playing on the left wing, right wing, up as forwards. So familiar name going to be said off the top as to the person who stirs the drink offensively, and that is Eisa. This time not Mo Eisa, who we saw in the MK Dons game. It's his brother Abo, 27 years old. He's had 619 minutes. Pace. That's what we had to deal with Mo. Abo plays a similar game, which isn't a surprise given their relationship. He's got 4 goals this year. He's been playing not the lead man up front, but more off the left-hand side. His goals per 90 is really, really high right now compared to where he's been statistically. He's only 27, but he hasn't been this high in his goals per 90 minutes. I think it's 0.6 just off the top of my head, since 2017, 2018, when he was leading the charge for Wealdstone in the 6th tier in the National League South at the time. Up front, and the person right at the front is Danny Rose, 29. He was with Stevenage last year. 627 minutes this year. He's got 2 goals. And so that the 2 of them have composed 6 of the 9 goals that Grimsby Town has put together. I'll admit this, Rose from his statistics has been awful to date. He's got the 2 goals, but he's only got 3 shots. His conversion rate obviously is high, but you'd expect the guy to be up at the front to be getting more chances than that. And I don't know if that's just a statistical error on footy stats, but I've not known to them to be wrong. Somebody who is with Grimsby is going to have to tell me how a guy with 627 minutes who's playing in the front of a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-5-1 is so low in shots. But you look historically, he hasn't had a lot of goals recently. 6 goals in 43 games last year. Before that, he had 5 goals in 75 games. He's not really racking up assists, and so I don't understand. He's probably going to have a hell of a game, because every time I seem to mention somebody who struggles, they end up stepping up and doing something special. I hope that's not the case, but that's Danny Rose, and that's the lead of the attack, and I guess that's why they only have 9 goals this year, is because their top guy, the guy at the front, isn't really potting them at any exceptional rate. Midfielders, we know what we're going to get. We're going to get at least 2 of the crew is going to be Harry Clifton, 25, who's played 629 of 630 league game minutes, and Conte, he was their last previous game's man of the match. He's had 619 minutes out of a possible 630 in the league. Just looking at Harry Clifton, the Welshman, his assists, the output's been there, but when you go through and you look at those passes, man, 76 out of 117 for 64.96% pass completion rate. That's got him 9th percentile. Key passes, just slightly better than that. His crosses, he's had 1 successful cross of the 11 for 0.20, which puts him at the 53% rate, which I would suggest is probably only there because he's actually had a successful cross. So not really performing offensively, and nothing really stands out. Taking the FOTMob stats from Camille Conte, I'm going to look at both here, because there's sort of a tale of 2 things with Camille, and I've gone over what, he's got room for improvement and seems to be getting better. But his successful passes, his pass completion rate, he's getting lots of opportunities. His pass completion rate isn't quite where he needs it to be, 45th percentile. He's only got the 1 out of the 5 crosses, which puts him in the 30th percentile. But his defensive stats are for the middle of the field are quite good. He's ground duels 77th percentile, aerial duels 83rd percentile, his interceptions 60th percentile, his tackle 99th percentile. So he's a guy who seems to be a little bit potentially more defensive midfielder than offensive, but he's certainly been able, it appears, to step up with some offense, and like I said, his game is growing. As far as the other option as to who you might get in the midfield, they've gone with Holohan, 31-year-old who's got 454 minutes, but they've also subbed in or started with Vernham and Hunt, who could also make appearances there. But it's really anticipated it's going to be Conte and Clifton that are going to lead the charge. And again, you look at these and you think analytically, the numbers don't match up with what their performance has been. And I think that this is a club that's been saved by its conversion rate. They're getting chances, and it seems, other than in one position, that they've been struggling. And so let's take a look at that position, because my word, Harvey Rodgers is a unit. 630 minutes in the league that he's played so far. He's been with Waterfall or Mar, but his D stats are something I haven't seen yet. This is team number 9, and I've looked at a lot of players. I've compared Wrexham also to him. Nothing like this. He blows everybody out of the water analytically, and it's what you normally see when you look at defensive stats. Is you'll see somebody who's good in the air but maybe a little bit bad on the ground duels, or they get a lot of clearances or interceptions. They're good at poaching, but they're weaker in another area. Not this guy. This guy's got solid green bars near the top on absolutely everything. Just bring these up, and it's nuts to look at. Interceptions 88th percentile in the league. Ground duels 96th percentile in the league. Aerial duels 98th 88th percentile in the league. He's not getting dribbled past. In fact, it's 0. He's got 93rd percentile in clearances, so 96th percentile in shots. He blocks shots. He gets balls. He intercepts passes. He'll get through it in the air. He's it. Like 26 years of age. That's something to see. So other than him, who are you going to get? Toby Mallarkey, 627 minutes. He's got 2 assists from the back in the 95th percentile for assists in the league, which is pretty impressive, giving things. I don't know if that's from set pieces and he was able to get a header to somebody else who was able to pot it, or what the circumstances are. His stats are solid. Not nearly as impressive, but how could they be to Mr. Rodgers? Aerial duels, 97th percentile. He's only been dribbled past once. That's 85th percentile. He's there with the clearances. So you've got 2 guys in the middle of their back line that do the job. And that's rather impressive to see. So we're going to have some work to do, especially considering how we've been approaching things. We're the opposite of Grimsby. We take a lot of shots, but we just haven't been converting on them. Who else could be there in the back line? Amos has had 432 minutes. Mars had 360 minutes. Nawa, who's been playing, and I may get that wrong, more recently, and also sort of on the midfield role on the right side of Mallarkey. He could end up getting some minutes too. So that's where they're going. As far as the stats, let's just look at Amos. Again, ground duels, exceptionally good. Aerial duels, really well. So this is a team that's got the defensive stuff lined up. They're just struggling offensively and through the midfield, I would suggest, but they're being rescued and saved in many instances by finding the back of the net whenever they get those chances. The goaltending situation, they've got 2. They brought Cartwright and Eastwood in the off season. Cartwright being a local guy, he's just had the cup match to date. Jake Eastwood, 26, has been running the gauntlet, 630 minutes of 630 in League 2. I'm sort of surprised he's been entrusted as much as he has when you try to look at his stats. He had 7 games in 2021 while on loan from Sheffield United for Grimsby. 2022, last season, he had 8 seasons on loan from Sheffield United to Rochdale. Not really an exemplary track record, not a large track record. So to take him at 26 and say, we're going to give you the keys to the kingdom in the back is interesting. A bit of a gamble, but it seems to be paid off. Let's be honest, he's only faced 20 shots all season. He stopped 15 of them. And I should say save percentage that puts him at 81 percentile, 81st percentile in the league for goalkeepers. That's not exceptional by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not horrible, and you'd have to think that his numbers are indicative of the play of the back line in front of him. 3 out of 7 clean sheets. Not a lot to say about Grimsby. We know exactly what we're going to get as far as prepping for them. Run the tape, because we're going to be seeing the same guys over and over and over again. I think there's a lot more questions as to what Wrexham's going to end up doing and who's going to be healthy, who's going to be in the lineup as a consequence. McLean coming back. Is Mendy okay? Is Mullen ready to run from the outset, or is he going to come off the bench again? Let's get into who do I compare them to as a North American club, just so that everybody has. Well, you're looking at a defensive stalwart. So who's that going to be? The San Antonio Spurs in the NBA, the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL, the Minnesota Wild, the St. Louis Blues in the National Hockey League. That's sort of what you get. Still a team that competes. They're in it. They have the chance to win. They're going to be taking those low-scoring games and trying to eke out maximum points from it. And I think that's the type of game that you're going to be able to expect from Grimsby. As far as a food, well, they're the Mariners, and so it only makes sense. What are you going to call them? You're going to go with a tuna, because it's abundant, it's there, but there ain't no flash. We'll go with it. Scoreline prediction, what am I going to do? This is a home game. You want to take 3 points every time you get it, but I'm actually going to call this one a 1-1 draw. And I say that because the last 4 games that we've had, Wrexham has been struggling to find offense up front. Most of our goals have been coming from set pieces and those sorts of things. And in a game like this, where you're up against a team that's got strong aerial dominance in their back line, I think that's an area that we struggle with, because our set pieces won't be operating as well as we'd like. I think we're going to have to score from just the run of play, open play, to be able to get that goal. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to be able to see Boyle come up and pot one from the back, yeah, so we'll be back with the watch party. If you like this sort of comment, these sorts of videos, I'm gonna have to do the editing quick because I'm running out of time. If you like these videos, subscribe, hit the like button, get the algorithm gods on our side as they were. The big thing Saturday, whoever you're a fan of, even if you're a Grimsby fan and you're watching this, come in and join in, be cordial. Have a chat, get to know people, express your views. It's been fun. Hopefully it improves as the tech thing allows us to. Still working on a couple of other videos that are in the back, just running out of time. I want to be able to do the Sunday game, but we'll talk to somebody and see if somebody else can step in and cover that one, because I may end up with some family commitments Sunday morning. I thought it was going to be a 7 a.m. start, and it looks like it's going to be a 9 start, and that's probably not going to work for me. So we'll chat about that, but also you've got the video that Jed, thank you. I've said this to everybody who's created this whole platform with the idea that everyone's going to get a chance. If you want to do graphic creation, production for the video, you want to make your own videos, you want to write, there's an opportunity for the fans to sort of not just share their thoughts within the watch parties and the chats, but share these videos and research what you want to do and come up with the video. So I'm thankful for Jed for stepping up and doing the first one. Have a look at his video. Let us know how to improve on that mid-table review, because I know he's excited to do it, and I thought it was awesome. So that's that. I'm Sean Driver. We'll see you Saturday, and this is the Red Horde.